And the first item on the agenda, of course, would be the minutes of the last week's meeting. So gentlemen, you all got a copy ahead of time. If you have any questions or any comments you need to make, changes?
Not really, I guess just a point of clarification.
Okay, go ahead.
On the PTO, when I made the motion to approve those, it reads to approve the preliminary PTO. So do we need to keep that as preliminary, or is that?
I don't know, that's how it was worded that day.
I think we should keep it preliminary because we got, till what, Mark? We got till the end of the year, actually, if there's any changes that would have to be brought up.
So does that mean that it does not go into effect since it's preliminary?
Well, it doesn't go into effect until all the timekeeping is implemented anyway.
Yeah.
Okay. So yeah, I'm fine with keeping it preliminary then, given that.
I mean, there probably won't be any changes, wouldn't need to be any, but I think the reason was just in case, since you have a little time before that, if Shannon comes up with something that,
Right.
Because I was
Needs to
fine to
happen,
keep it as our,
Well, I think Shannon's been having meetings with
Approved, so-
department heads and so on, just to get their feeling.
but since there's many other moving parts as far as the timekeeping and the council meeting, so I'm okay with keeping that preliminary.
You want to make a motion on the minutes?
So moved.
Okay.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded that we go ahead and approve the minutes of the last week's meeting. Motion carries.
okay, I have payroll claims for 8/20 of '21 in the amount of $317,363.69, 317,363.69.
Okay.
Anything else that you saw in that, Tony, that was?
No, it's pretty normal.
I'd make a
pretty
motion to approve.
Okay, motion's been made. And Steve, you did second it, right?
Yes.
Okay, motion been made, second. We go ahead and approve the payroll claims of $317,363.69.
Okay, and then we've got accounts payable on 9/1 of '21. The accounts payable, you should have gotten the email. You might have gotten it just a little late this week. We've had some
Yeah, I didn't.
outages in the office, so they might have gotten to you a little bit late, but
Yeah,
they're all
I don't
on
know if I
here.
saw.
I didn't see it. Yeah.
I don't know if that was last night or this morning, and but the amount on that is $160,831.68, 160,831.68. Trying to see if there's any.
Yeah, I see it now. Got it here.
IT has quality correctional care would be one of the big ones in that
That'd be for the jail.
jail.
Yeah. 20,212.58 or 20, no,
It's like
29,000,
29,212.
29,212.58, yeah.
Yeah, so that's one of the. Anyway, I'll pass this down if you.
Yeah, I don't see anything.
Actually lower than it has been.
Yeah, it has been,
the
yeah.
last few
Yeah,
weeks.
any other questions, gentlemen? Did you look at your list?
I'm just looking real quick. I just opened it real quick.
I'll make a motion.
Yeah.
Any questions, Dan?
No, man. I would second that motion.
Okay, motion's been made and seconded. We approve claims of 160,831.68. Motion carries.
Okay. And the other two things quickly, don't need motions or anything, just a point of information. I told you last week that we had on the health insurance, we had credits coming. and we still do. So I put in front of you that we still have some remaining credit that will still go on again. So there's nothing to approve because the amount that we would have paid was taken care of by the credit, if that makes sense.
Here we got to carry it.
And that was the stop loss, I'm assuming. Right, Mark? I'll let you look at it. That would be, or Shannon, I think that was the stop loss credit that we got. I think we discussed that last week. Yeah. So it's the same thing that we discussed last week. Still got credit coming, which is a good thing. I don't know what else it would be.
We don't need a motion or anything on this?
No, there's no
It
claim.
was just for your guys' information.
Okay.
And then the other thing I laid in front of you is also information. The treasurer's office, Kathy, is always real good about getting us the account balances on the health insurance, which I appreciate very much. In checking currently, there's $233,732.77, with the reserve being $2,481,329.36, and you should have that in front of you as well, as I passed it out there somewhere.
Yeah.
That is as of August 27th, what we have with health insurance. I like trying to keep you guys updated when Kathy updates me on that, so.
Yeah, very good. It's pretty healthy, at least we're staying consistent with that.
And that is all that I have today.
Okay. Any questions, gentlemen? Tony? Okay, Brad?
I changed on you today, I sat over there. All right. Good morning.
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 The first thing I have on the agenda today, I have 2 permits to install utility facilities. And it is for the City of Decatur Water Department. And if you guys would have any questions once we go through this, Kevin Hackman from the City of Decatur is here. So the City of Decatur has well fields kind of southeast of Bern. And they are wanting to install a new well field line, main water line that runs, up to Decatur. And right now they're going to start down there around Bern. So I have 2 permits, and the first one is on County Road 650 South, and they'll start roughly a half mile east of County Road 75 East. They'll go down through there to 75 East. Then the second permit is from 650 South along 75 East up to 218. So I brought both of them along today for your approval. They're actually not, they're installing a new one because they can't take out the old one because they're still using it right now. We've met out there with them, discussed it, and at this point, those are the 2 they're kind of ready to start on here before long. And there will be more of an extension later on, but they don't have that all figured out where it's going to be quite yet. So for today, I thought I'd bring these 2 along. If you guys have any questions, like I said, I can try and answer them. Kevin's here to help answer questions if need be.
Can you give me those locations again?
So it's 650 South and 75 East.
I think we looked at those last week.
Yeah, we do.
Yeah, you had had the plans laid out for us last week. Do you have any questions on those last week?
Yeah, you were okay with those, both of those?
Yeah, like I said, we met out there with them and, we kind of went over everything and just gave them, it went well, had some ideas for them. Paul Norris also actually talked to him some. I've been in contact with Paul about it too, so.
I think Paul brought that up to us too, didn't he?
Yes,
Drainage,
yeah.
Yeah. So everything's okay from your viewpoint?
Yeah, they're gonna, they're gonna stay in the right of way.
Okay.
From our viewpoint, it's okay. Paul, that part there, they're gonna do on 650, you're okay with that portion of it? As long as they follow your guidelines, correct?
Okay, so we could take both of those, under one motion then.
Okay.
Any other questions?
I make a motion to approve.
Second.
Okay, motions been made and seconded to go ahead and approve those two permits to the city of Decatur.
Okay.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, twice.
You had to cross twice.
Yeah.
I didn't have them stapled together, so I just brought up the signature page, so.
I forget, how big of a line is that, Kevin? Is that,
Excuse me?
how big of a line is that?
The new line will be 18 inch. Right now it's 24 inch running from the wells to burn and get up.
Yeah.
So
Thank you.
the old one, you said it was concrete.
Excuse me?
Was the old line a concrete line?
No, it's double iron.
Oh, double iron, okay.
We've been having many issues from the road burn for the last few years. A couple times it's drained our towers in town.
That kind of stinks.
And then just kind of give you guys, there in the mechanics building, the building where we work on all the equipment, we have a used oil furnace. And the used oil furnace was put in 1998. And we have kind of been nursing that thing along. You know, every year, seems like we're having some more issues with it. It needs cleaned more often. It's just, I think it's served its useful life. So we've asked around a little bit and we got a price on a new one at $15,000. And that was just, preliminary, doing some investigation just so we got an idea of the price range we're at. So I just want to give you guys a heads up, we're probably going to be replacing that hopefully here this fall before winter comes. The new ones are going to be a lot more efficient, and we're blessed with an abundance of used oil to burn.
So it'll still be an oil furnace that.
Yeah. We're gonna purchase a new used oil burning furnace.
And you can install that yourself, or you're gonna have that installed?
I doubt it will probably have somebody
Okay.
install that. Like I said, the old one's been being nursed along every year. We had come in over a weekend and the thing wasn't running, so it was a little cool in there, after a weekend. So I just want to inform you guys, that's something we're looking at right now.
Which building is that?
It's the mechanics building. It's the one long building that's off the office
I
there.
remember we were in that one.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, Brad showed us that furnace. Yeah, are you getting quotes from different vendors on this, or is it just,
Well, not yet. We haven't at that price range at 15,000.
Is that installed?
No, it's not installed. So, like I said, this is preliminary. I want to let you guys know and then kind of ask, do we need to get 3 quotes at 15,000?
It's always a good idea to see if you can get other quotes
Yeah,
from
you
other.
won't shop around.
Yeah. No, you don't have to, but I
Yeah.
think locally, it's always been the commissioner's
Yeah, we'll
policy
shop
to
around,
try
but-
to get some quotes from local
Yeah.
contractors.
come back to us with a recommendation?
Yep. So anyhow, I just want to give you guys a heads up. That's something we're starting to look into. Even though it's 90 degrees out, we're looking into it right now. And then, finally got something back on our fuel system. We've been waiting and waiting and waiting. And for us to purchase the 2 new tanks, everything's installed, $84,000 just for the 2 2,000-gallon tanks.
How much was it again?
84,000.
84?
$84,850.
That's for
And
the tanks and installation.
that's tanks and insulation, just the 2 2,000-gallon tanks and insulation. And we did some checking around on recommendations, and one of the other gas suppliers, they will supply tanks, and then we get into kind of, if you get their tanks, you're locked in with them.
You have to buy their. fuel.
Yeah. Now, the one other thing is the one the sheriff's department has, you know, that's who they use also. So that might be kind of another angle at it, is they've
So if
already
we
got
bought
the
our-
stuff.
If we bought our own tanks, we could still use the same supply.
Well, for that kind of price, I don't know, because if they would supply the tanks, then we're just
No, I
locked
mean,
in buying fuel
if
from
we
them.
bought our own tanks.
Oh, yeah, then we could get whoever. Yeah,
But that's a lot less money than originally. you-
well, because we went from having, this would be with the on-road fuel being purchased off-site. This is just gasoline, on-road off-site, gasoline and off-road at the buildings. That's just for the 2 tanks. We would still have to go buy the on-road diesel elsewhere.
What's your recommendation?
At this point, I would like to start talking more in depth with the ones that provide the tanks, even though we would be locked in with them. I'd like to start that process with them, because 84,000 is a lot of money for just 2 tanks at 2,000 gallons apiece.
As far as I'm concerned, you can go ahead and continue that talk.
Yeah,
Okay.
Yeah, go ahead and,
because if we did our on-road diesel, that would have to be a much bigger tank.
And that's when we were back up to closer to the
Right,
300,000
right.
price range. Yeah.
okay.
So I would like to pursue that other.
Yeah, go ahead and do that, Brad.
Okay. And then we're still out mowing. Some of the guys went out and graded after that nice rain we had the other night. And just continuing on with our everyday duties.
Okay. All right,
That is
any
all I
questions
have.
for Brad, gentlemen?
No,
Okay,
we didn't have anything more on 800 north that we wanted to talk about, okay?
But we need to find out what's the length of the contract, you know, and, you know, pricing. I mean, normally you get annual bids for fuel. And so then you would be locked into this one vendor for fuel. So it depends upon how long is that contract going to be, what's the minimum gallon requirements and things like that. So you can do kind of a cost comparison. Is it worth it, you know, to be locked into this one vendor versus spending the money, you know, to install the tanks?
Yeah. No, I was talking about 800 north.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, nothing more on,
Oh, okay.
so,
okay.
okay.
Okay, very good, thanks, Brad.
Thank you, guys.
Rick?
First thing I want to start out with is, this is what I know going on with that chillers. This was an email that I got yesterday. This was an email like
Hey.
that on the chillers.
Okay.
As you can see there, he was asking for the size and how many we have as far as air handlers for the HVAC system.
You have that information that you can provide to them, right?
Yes, I sent him all that information this morning.
Okay,
He did respond already. Basically, he could see the air handler schedule, note that 2 were added in the gymnasium. And then that's also for the 4 Mitsubishis that cool the server room downstairs. So
Okay.
he has all that. According to this email he sent me just back this morning, he should be able to give us our quote.
Yep.
And go from there.
okay, so we're in a wait situation until we hear back from them.
Yeah, until they get this price and sized. And
So we have not entered into a contract with him yet, or have?
No, it was subject to, you guys approved it, only subject to increase in the scope to provide enhanced air handling to help prevent the spread.
They
And
now have, basically, they now have all that information.
Okay. All right. Okay, well, we'll wait.
That's where we're at with that. Since we're talking about AC units, last week I spent the better 2.5 days over at the courthouse, with their AC issues. At some point in time, we may want to look into having to replace that over there. We have kind of limped that along. There is a leak over there that we've just kind of didn't want to shut it down because of 90-degree weather. So I elected to put more Freon in it, but that's probably not gonna last. If it cools down here, I'll shut it all down and we'll try to find the leak.
Okay.
But those units are H2.
is that the courthouse?
Yeah.
Is that the Mitsubishi systems?
Yes. Yep. So that might be something we may have to consider down the road.
Is that something that would qualify under our ARPA money?
Well, if
Maybe.
you're using it for the same reasons that we're using
Yeah.
this one for, it could.
Perhaps.
But we, last Friday, we went Kirkland's up, we changed all the filters out, we washed them out, took them out, put them back in because they're washable. Just go from there. Need to be done anyway before winter's coming, so I just did it Friday.
Okay,
Hopefully that AC will last over there until we don't need it over there anymore this year.
another
As
month
far
or
as-
so?
Yeah.
Okay,
That's where I am there. Joe.
okay, well, we'll wait till we hear back from the engineering firm on the chillers here, so we'll see how that goes.
Okay.
All right, very good. Thanks, Rick.
Thanks, Rick.
Shannon, you got any updates for us?
I have one employee who was on medical leave and did not receive payment. So that employee has asked to use 40 hours of the biweekly pay that's offered in the policy manual once every 5 years to make up the difference between what they would have received had they been able to work and what they didn't receive because they were on medical leave. I don't know how this is normally done, so I was told not to say names, but I can let you guys know afterwards who it is. We can talk a little bit more about that. And then I have another employee who is requesting the full biweekly payment due to exhaustion of their accrued benefit leaves while they're on medical leave, and then also a long-term illness leave once their FMLA has been exhausted. So that's kind of happening too.
Okay,
And then just as an update on the timekeeping implementation, I haven't really talked about that lately. Most of our payrolls are already programmed, so we're really close to getting into the system and having access to it, like Tony and I and the administrators. So that'll help give us more understanding of where we stand, what needs to be tested, what needs to be worked on, and things like that. We've put together a preliminary rollout schedule by groups or departments. And we're hoping that the end of the year is a realistic goal now, that we're more into this. We're very hopeful that by the end of the year, we'll have this done. So that's what we're working on. My PTO discussions that I've met with department heads and various employees have gone overall pretty positively. I am almost done with them. I have 2 more tomorrow and then 1 or 2 in the next couple of weeks. Otherwise, if the department head reaches out to me, then I'll meet with them, but I don't have anything else scheduled outside of these last couple. And that's it. That's all I have.
as far as your discussions concerning our preliminary PTO on the change order, has there been any negative responses to that as far as that goes?
I've only gotten one person that has told me that they did not agree with the conversion of the sick time, even after explaining the benefit of the policy itself. And it was more of a statement versus an actual complaint. It wasn't that I hate this and I don't want this. It was just, a disagreement. But it was okay. She just wanted her opinion heard, so. But no, I think that we had a good meeting at the sheriff's department, last week. I have highway tomorrow, so I'll talk to them about it, but I did one at community corrections, clerk's office went well. Most of them have been, that they can see the positivity behind the plan and the policy itself, so.
Because I had some discussion with community corrections, and so that, you'd say that meeting did go well.
Yes, that was yesterday.
Good.
And they seem to be all on board with that. And it was discussed that it was an overall positive change for the county and a benefit to the employees, so,
Good.
yeah,
Great.
it was good.
We need a motion and vote on what she had for.
Yeah, no, and I want to talk to Mark on it.
But yeah, once again, I appreciate your work on the conversion.
Yeah, absolutely.
Hasn't been easy, yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you. As far as the two requests that you had concerning the employees, Mark, have you been brought up to date on those, and is everything according to?
Oh, well, I just got a couple of questions on the first. Can you explain the first scenario again to me? Is this an individual that's off on medical now
Yes.
and has exhausted all benefits?
Yes, they were. So their accrued benefits only got them halfway through a pay period because they were out for 3 weeks. So everything that they had has been exhausted and it only got them 40 hours into one pay period. So I'm just asking for the other half of that pay period that they missed because they were still on FMLA.
Okay. That, and under the policy, if an individual is off on sick leave and they have exhausted all paid time off, vacation or sick days is what we're under now, then they're eligible to receive, additional pay, to make up the difference. So that would be all right if you want to make a motion to that effect on that particular case.
Okay, we need a motion on that.
I'm fine with that. I'd make that motion.
Okay, motion's been made, seconded, we go ahead and approve those two requests.
And the other one you know about.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, I think that probably the important thing on this is long-term tracking, so that we understand and the employee understands that benefit has already been
Right.
used. Yeah.
Right. Okay. Anything else?
No,
Okay,
not
thanks.
that we have here. Thank you very much, Shannon. Before we go on to the next item, Tony, I think we need to bring up, at least leave the public know concerning the interim report that you had to give on ARPA funds, which was due August 31st. And the thing that Bree and Tony analyzed was a lost revenue, which was one of the items that we could get reimbursed for out of those funds. The year 2019 is our lead year, so to speak. Base year, so to speak. Anyway, the total receipts that qualified to look at in 2019, we took in a total of $77,959,583. But out of that dollar amount, the only amount that we could look at was $24,385,451, which was basically the tax revenue and user fees. If we had a reduction in that income, that's what we were looking at, which is kind of interesting when you look at, some people think that property taxes is a bulk of our receipts. But basically our property taxes and user fees that we had in 2019 amounted to 31.2796% of our total receipts. So we compared in 2020 on what was done, and we took in $180,901. Out of that, we could only look at $25,381,844, which meant that we had an increase in 2020 over 2019 of $996,392, which represented 31.6557% of our total receipts, which I thought was an interesting figure. Our property taxes are not that high compared to the total receipts we get. I think Ed would verify that. Yeah. Okay, that's just for your public information that the report was done and entered in last week, so we met the deadline for the preliminary report. Anyway, any questions, gentlemen?
No.
I would say on that too, several of us were involved in the webinar that NACO, the National Association of Counties, held, and there were several breakout rooms.
Yesterday.
And I think Mark can comment on this too, and Rex, because we were in the same room with, and Ed was. But some of the questions we had in that room, we were getting somewhat different answers than what Mark got when he asked later on some of the same issues, which tells us that they are still hedging their bets, so to speak, knowing that they don't want to, before the final interim rule is completed, the federal government will be changing things because all the counties and states are contacting them with issues. So they are still looking through all of that. So they are afraid to say anything directly and then find out later, oh, that wasn't actually covered. So it's still kind of in flux. Because I got, in our room, we got kind of a different answer. And if you heard Mark's question, Erin Hurley, her name was, she gave kind of a more broad answer as to that question. Like, well, we think so, but we're not sure at this point, that kind of thing. So it's, Mark, I don't know if you want to add anything to that or not after listening to all that webinar, but.
There wasn't a lot of definitive answers when you asked certain questions. And so the question that I asked was in relation to our request to use or desire to use ARP funds to purchase, radio equipment and software to upgrade, the jail management system and the 911 communication system, radios, dispatch, et cetera. And my question was, after having reviewed, the rule and the regulations, the interim rule and everything I can find, is that that's limited to the extent to which you've had a loss in revenue. And so that was my specific question. Is that the case? And they didn't have a good answer for that. I mean, the statute and the Code of Federal Regulations, the actual rule itself is very clear that it's limited to the counties, the extent to which there's been a loss in revenue. And so we haven't documented, a loss in revenue. And so will they change that sometime in the future? Maybe. We saw that they changed the way that you've used CARES money, but they haven't done it yet. So
Still kind of wait and see on some things.
but we've reached out to Barnes and Thornburg. I've got a conference call with them tomorrow on this specific issue, as well as updating, we're coming up with the county's spending plan for the use of ARP money. Commissioners developed that plan to spend that money, but that money, and in your own ordinance creating that fund, and this is in the same ordinance that every other county has developed, says that the county council has to appropriate those funds. So the commissioners can come up with the plan to use the money and designate the projects that you want to use it on, but the county council still has to appropriate that money so it can be spent. So it's very similar to the way you do, seeded money and all other funds, is that the county council has to appropriate those funds. So, the county has other funds. There's the rainy day fund could be utilized to, do that project if the council is willing to do that. And then hopefully there'll be a change in the regulations and they'll loosen the requirements and say that public safety you can use those monies for public safety without regard to loss in revenue. That could happen. That could be coming, any time or in the months ahead, in which case then you could use ARP funds for that and you wouldn't have to use rainy day. But like I said, it hasn't happened yet. So we'll just have to take it to the county council and put it on the agenda and
So
see.
at this point, they're saying no.
Well, the regulation itself says that to use money for governmental services, including, police, fire, public safety, is limited to the extent that you've had a loss in revenue. It's in black and white. That's in the rule. And so Now, if there's something else out there, you know, I realize there may be other counties that have designated, you know, to use funds for that purpose. Maybe they have a loss in revenue. I don't know. Every situation is different. But, you know, I can't, you know, ignore what that rule says, what it says now. And so the county can, you know, approve to proceed with a project like that, but you've got to designate a funding source that you're going to use to pay for that project at the outset. And right now, it would seem to be that unless it's county general, it would have to be rainy day, and then you would hope that you would be able to recover those funds from ARP money if, in fact, they change the requirements on what you can use those funds for.
So if we have to use funds out of different line items, we can reimburse those funds if they would qualify for ARPA after the fact?
I think you can, yeah, I mean, if you have spending and you know, would at some point, you know, want to be reimbursed for those funds out of ARP funds, I think that's possible. That's another question I've got for the other attorneys that we're talking to make sure that that's eligible. Because, yeah, that's the question. Can you use other funds and then get reimbursed out of ARP funds?
Because the
that's the
interim
question.
rule is 151 pages.
Mm-hmm.
So far.
Right. Yeah, until it doesn't
There's
really.
a lot of stuff to go through.
It doesn't really get into the uses and what you can do until you get down to about page 128, 130. And then it starts to go through what you can use it for. And one of the uses, and we'll talk about this, you know, later, is you can, specifically, one of the uses is you can use funds for the expenses of providing paid sick and paid family medical leave to public employees to enable compliance with COVID-19 public health precautions. So if you were to adopt, you know, depending on what happens here, obviously things are changing in the county and you've got county employees coming down with symptoms and needing perhaps to stay home or testing positive and needing to stay home, then you could adopt a policy and update your county COVID policy to allow for the use of those funds to pay individuals sick leave so that they wouldn't have to use up sick days and vacation days and exhaust, you know, paid time that they've accumulated. You could use those funds for them to stay home instead of just not reporting that they've been exposed or not reporting that they're sick and then coming into work. So that's something that you need to be thinking about here pretty soon. We need to talk about whether or not that's what you're going to do.
Possibly reevaluate the work from home.
Well, working from home is a different matter. If they're working, then they're working and you're paying them.
Paying them.
Yeah, and I don't know what the current policy is on that. Did it change? Did it change when the federal government monies ended to cover that, or is it still the same policy that?
Well, the commissioner's policy has been everybody back to work and nobody's working from home. That's been your policy. And, you know, unless there's some extenuating circumstance, and we've had a few departments where that maybe has happened, but for the most part, everybody's supposed to be coming to work.
So it's allowable under extenuating circumstances and so forth?
Right.
Okay.
Right.
Okay, just wanted to clarify.
But if we have an employee that falls within the parameters of either having to quarantine away from work because of a positive exposure or because of a positive test or because of direct COVID treatment, that would be reimbursable from out of this money.
It appears that
The way it's worded, yeah.
But you would have to adopt, you know, a policy. You would have to update your COVID, you know, leave policy countywide for county employees to state, you know, if you have symptoms, if you've tested positive, stay home and you'll be compensated at your regular rate of pay.
Defined as a COVID event.
Has to be a COVID-related leave. But that's something I've got to work with Shannon on. I don't think we have all the answers today, but I need to work with Shannon on that and see if we can come up with the policy if you're inclined to do that. That was something that I wanted to talk to you about today.
Shannon, any thoughts on that?
Not right now.
But I mean, to me, it would be appropriate, at first glance.
Okay,
I think I'd be inclined to go along with that.
well, we'll come up with a recommendation or a potential draft policy for that and then bring it back to you probably next week, so.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
I would also agree with that because I'm hearing rumors that employees might be sick, might have symptoms, but they will not get tested because they know if they get tested, then they're out for 10 days, and that's 10 days of their time they have to use. So instead of doing that, they're not getting tested, they could be coming in sick and contaminate our department. So I would also agree, please look into that, if it can be adopted to where then they won't be burning their time and they're more willing to go get tested and stay home.
Yeah, I'd agree with that.
All right, well,
So guys, work on it.
Shannon and I will work on that.
Okay. Anything else from the public concerning that matter? Okay, Mark, I'm gonna, jump over you and go to Judge. Since he's here, he might as well be up here.
Yeah, like the idea of getting in, I think I have a hearing coming up, a couple of them. Anyway,
They'll wait for you.
yeah, that's what they say, but they don't like us to just be late either, so anyway, I've got a couple pieces of paper for you guys, it's not 150 pages long, I try to consolidate it down. So that way it ought to be easy, I kind of get to the point, and, both of the things I'm asking for relate to two of my staffers and changing their job classifications. This is what I want to do is provide you guys with an outline, and thanks a lot for getting me in here as soon as you did. So anyway, I'll give everybody one. And then this is the NE6 definition of NE6 as it had adopted.
Job descriptions.
Job description.
Yeah. These are a change of job descriptions, Judge.
That term, those terms are just kind of, I think that's what you guys consider. If you want one more, I can give you.
I'll get one for Shannon here.
Or I'll give one to Shannon, I got extras and then I've got the definition.
It's gotta be a job description.
Fresh out. So it's what,
Yeah, I can make a copy of it.
I know.
So the judge,
presentation.
the way
It's
it
gotta be a
goes.
job description change.
Then to pass it out, but probably would take longer. I was a lawyer before I became judge, so. Anyway. Sometimes long-winded. Anyway.
You passed the bar and everything?
Yeah, and nobody seems to complain when I'm on the bench, but you guys might have to complain, I don't know. Now I'm on the other side of things. Tony, you guys know these definitions, I'm sure, but I just thought it would make it easy.
Thank
For
you.
you guys to see what I'm trying to relate to the job descriptions that have been adopted or to these.
So as far as the job descriptions themselves, you haven't changed the description.
I'm going to explain to you why I think they might
What do you
be,
need?
I guess.
Need this? Need a copy of this?
And why they fit more into the NE6 categories than the ones that are currently in.
Okay?
Why their jobs have changed as they relate to their duties and their management of different areas of my department. So, so the NE6, I'm gonna track that exactly the way it reads right here. Like the second page goes education, experience, supervision, customer interaction, financial, and then responsibilities. Everybody all settled in? Okay. But thank you so much, and like I mentioned here, or like I want to say, I don't come in front of you guys hardly ever, okay? But I feel pretty strongly about my position on this, and hopefully, it's something that you'll consider to be able to move these very loyal employees from the different category that they're in right now to the new category. And seldom do I ask for money, but this will amount to a raise for these ladies, for sure. Like, that's just me trying to be frank with you guys. And I think in my proposed budget, I've kind of proposed extra money, so that way, and I'll have to go, I think, for the council folks and with the wage board appeals, I'm not sure which one yet, but we're to go in front of them and then see what I have to do to accomplish my goals. So anyway, what I'm asking you guys to do is for Nan Johnson, and I'm just going to kind of go through this line by line. Nan Johnson, I'd like the commissioners to consider moving her job classification from NE5 to NE6. Carrie Burkholder, I'd like the commissioners to consider moving her job classification from NE4 to NE6. At one point, I thought Carrie, I might ask just for NE5 versus NE6, but the more I looked at the definitions, the more I thought about their responsibilities and their experience and all the things I'm going to talk about today. I don't know how, in good conscience, I can't argue for NE6 for Carrie as well. So then after taking a closer look at the job classifications, I think the NE6 is the appropriate classification for these two county employees.
So can we back up again? So,
Yes, sure.
So the court reporter is,
They're both court reporters.
they're both court reporters.
Yes, sir. Yep.
So they're both currently NE4s?
No, Nan's an NE5.
Yeah.
See, so on the front page, Stan,
Yeah, front page.
can I call you guys by your first names? I feel like I know you guys well
Yeah,
enough.
you sure
And
can.
And I'll call you that on accident, and I don't mean to demean anyone or say it the wrong way, but anyway, so the front page says Nan from NE5 to NE6, Carrie from NE4 to NE6. The reason why, and that's what I was just stating, okay? The reason why I feel as though I want to move Carrie, I feel like she has the same responsibilities, only in a different part of the department. It's very similar. And I'll get to that here as I go through my presentation today. Because originally, Stan, to answer your question as far as Carrie goes, okay, because I said Nan, NE5 to NE6. Carrie, NE4 to NE6. The reason being that the more I looked at it, I wouldn't feel right not asking to have her raised to that level as well, from NE4 to NE6. Because she does the same thing, only a different part of my document, the same thing.
But Nan is the chief reporter.
That's her title.
Yeah, sure.
But they have the same responsibilities, duties, only just different parts of my document. And I'd just like to say too, anybody that's in this room that knows dealing with my staff, and if you do, but I know the sheriff's department does, and anybody else, they're professional. Like, they know what's going on. And I was lucky to do that. And that's in my conclusion. I'll talk about that a little bit. But anyway, so let's get to the point with Nan. So if you follow the NE6 definition that the county provides here, it says education/experience will likely have at least a bachelor's degree. There's nothing about experience there, which maybe that needs to be looked at. I don't know. But my point is this. Nan has a high school diploma. Nan chose to start a family and enter the workforce as well. But experience, how many years has Nan worked for the circuit court? 28 years. 28 years. She started in 1993. She was loyal to the county, and with that experience comes the competency that she needs to manage my criminal docket. Supervision. I like to think of circuit court in terms of departments. Nan manages my criminal department. My criminal caseload has increased substantially since I took the bench in 2012. She does everything from arranged jail appearances, the relationship with the jail, to write my final orders. She writes my orders. I read those orders, I make sure they're right, and I sign them. She's the one who, when I sent somebody to prison for 40 years, wrote that up. I don't write it up. She does it. It's a huge responsibility. So all the way from getting them to court to sending them to prison or not. That's what she does. She supervises the department with 100% competence. She works with the jail, the prosecutors, and the defense, and has respect to those departments. And not always is that the case. And I think that the commissioners are well aware of those sorts of things, where courts and different departments don't get along. My department gets along with everybody. I can't think of one that disrespects my department. And that's because of these ladies as much as it's because of me. Without Nan's experience in managing the criminal department, it just wouldn't run as smoothly. And it's something I didn't even know. When I first became judge, I didn't even think about it. I'm the kind of person that demands that things go the right way, and they better, or else. And I like things to be right. And if they're not, I have to change things. And I didn't even know how good these ladies were, how they were carrying me. It's like that footprints, and this isn't in my dialogue here, but like that footprints, God's carrying you when you're having a hard time. They were carrying me in 2012. I didn't know it, just like footprints. Anyway, customer interaction is stated as above. She interacts well with the jail, prosecutors, and defense. And those people are at odds. I mean, everybody's got differing resources and wants and needs. I mean, the prosecutor wants to send her to prison, defense doesn't. You're dealing with a hard group to deal with. They're meant to argue. Not so much the jail, but we all know that the jail, we're so lucky. I always feel so lucky, and Nan realizes that her relationship with Jim Miller, the jail commander, and our sheriff matters. We respect them. I don't order them around. They have their policies, and I respect their policies. And Nan does too. The other thing is, so Nan is dealing with these litigants and third parties that are at their lowest point. They are a loved one, has a major felony criminal case pending, and is potentially facing many years in prison. She's just good at handling folks when they call in. Well, my son wants out of jail, hey, the judge will set, not on some verbal motion from a loved one or a third party, but on a motion by the defense counsel or by that inmate, will set a hearing. She just has professionalism when it comes to that. She just is really good. And I'm so lucky in that regard. But I can't get away from the 28 years of experience. And I think that that's one of the key factors in an NE6. It also follows under the other ones. But with her experience allows her to do what I need her to do. In a caseload that runs about 20 to 30% higher than what I'm supposed to be doing as a judge. We have measures that say this is what 100% of a judge, 100% a judge should be able to do all these things. I ran in 2019, I ran 120%. A lot because of these ladies that I'm going to talk about. My court administrator helps, and so does my bailiff. And I appreciate, I think that we had raised their levels up at one point, and I think it was so appropriate. On the financial aspect, I know that the commissioners in a hearing not that long ago talked about if you're dealing with financial aspects of the department, that means something, and that those folks that do those kinds of things should be rewarded with maybe a higher job description or level here, or job classification, I guess. So where Nan makes recommendations in court and consults with court administrator Sandy Brown, okay, on budget issues affecting the criminal department. Now, I didn't write this down, but I wrote it in my notes on my side notes. Mental health, pauper, and appeals. Those are three areas that our budget, it can come and go. So mental health, we may have folks that file mental disease or defect. We may have more than what is in our budget. We try to do a good job of figuring that out. And I know that commissioners and councilmen and women have done a good job of whittling down my budget so that way it reflects reality, which I think is really important. But on those issues, Nan can predict and look forward at those three categories in my budget and try to help guide the administrator and myself in dealing with the budget issues that may or may not arise in those three categories: mental health, pauper, and appeals. It's imperative that we have her input. My court administrator, Sandy Brown's very good at her job, but having Nan's input really helps in making those recommendations to the commissioners and council people. Like, because they go up, they ebb and flow, and we want our budget to reflect reality. I think that's important. Much like I think their job descriptions or their job classifications should reflect reality, and that's what I'm asking you guys to do. So responsibilities, I consider Nan my chief deputy in my criminal department. She manages the workflow of that department. She has chosen to make it her profession. I'm using some of your words, semi-professional in the NA6. I mean, somebody who's dedicated 28 years of their life, that's their profession. They're not a doctor. She doesn't even have a bachelor's degree or an associate's degree. Now, Carrie does, but I don't think that matters. I think that it's all about the person and what kind of responsibilities they can and will take on and how competent they are. Like, I don't want to mess with my criminal docket. I let her run that calendar. Now, she can't put the robe on and run that docket on the bench like I do. Nobody can do that, except for maybe somebody that might be judge after me sometime. But what I'm trying to say is that without her, I'm so lucky. I'm so lucky. She's truly a blessing. Carrie Burkholder, now she has an associate's degree. Flip into the next page there. And you'll see how these kind of mirror each other, because Carrie handles my CHINS docket, or Child in Need of Services docket, and I'll get to what that is here in a second. But so experience for Carrie, she has an associate's degree, and then her experience, 21 years this October. It's tough to find more loyalty or dedication to the county than these ladies. Like my court administrator and my bailiff, they haven't been there nearly as long as these two. And I'm glad they're in the positions they're in. It would be messy if they got moved. And these are not their only responsibilities. I'm just focusing on what they do pretty much their own selves. Like, that's the docket that they run. Any sort of dissolutions, they're trained across the board. Those two ladies can do any job in my office, any job. In fact, I thought about making Nan my court administrator at one time. Well, she didn't want that. She likes the criminal docket. She's kind of taking it on for herself. But anyway, back to Carrie. So 21 years of service in October. She told me today, I said, well, how many years have you been here? And I kind of knew her and Nan's experience and the time she's been here with the county, but I wasn't sure exactly. She said, well, should I put 20? But it's 21 in October. I said, it sounds better to say 21 in October. So that's why I'm telling you guys. Supervision. I like to think of circuit court in terms of departments, much like Nan supervises the criminal docket. Carrie supervises and manages or oversees my child in need of services department. My CHINS caseload has increased substantially. We went from, back in 2012, we were doing about 30 cases. Now we do 100 a year. And I thought that might be an anomaly, and I think I've been in front of you. I've given speeches about that. But now it's 100. My hope was that would come back down. One, for the safety of children. We don't have as many children in need of services. Unfortunately, that trend has just kind of stayed the same. 100 a year, no matter what. And, it's some of the saddest circumstances that you'll read about. But you guys don't have to deal with that, which is nice, honestly. Let's see here. So she does everything from arrange appearances. Sometimes there are 3 dads and 2 moms, or 2 moms, 3 dads. She has to make sure they're either on the phone, in the court. It's something to see. Those are closed hearings. You wouldn't be able to witness them, but it's pretty cool the way I run my docket because of the way they help me to run my docket. she's 100% competent. Like, I'm not just saying that, like, it's amazing. It's really cool that they can arrange all that. It's messy. So the CHINS docket is the child in need of services. Like if parents aren't performing up to par, police get called, or if they committed a crime. Kids get taken out of homes, detained. Sometimes kids are left in the home. But I don't know how well you guys know about that topic. Do you guys need more explanation as to what the CHINS cases might be, or you guys know? Okay, and I'm sorry if anybody has any personal experience with
Well,
that.
I guess I don't know specifically.
Okay, so it's
I mean, I
when
know
the
what it
state
stands
comes
for.
in and it's like you're being prosecuted for being poor parents and you're not performing, or maybe you've got a new criminal case and there's nowhere to take the kids. Grandpa and grandma don't live here. We have to take them and place them in foster care. It's that scenario.
Okay.
And then it's a really demanding caseload because the 100 cases I was speaking about, those 100 cases, it just goes exponential because those cases don't get done in the year I start them. They go anywhere from 6 months to 2, sometimes 3 years because foster homes fall apart. I mean, you're dealing with, it's not just 100 cases a year, I guess. And Carrie has to manage those things. And the other thing I'd like to point out about that, as far as customer interaction in this case, okay, so she works well with the jail, DCS attorney, and the defense with relative skill. In addition to working with those county entities, Carrie manages litigants and third parties that are at their lowest point. And what's your lowest point when you have a CHINS case? They are a loved one, so this third party or this parent has had a child taken out of their home. Can you imagine? Like, seriously, like my kid got taken. I mean, I do that all the time. I do those cases all the time where we remove the children. Like at 11:30, one of my cases is going to be a detention where a child got taken out of their home because mom and dad were doing something potentially not the right thing. Anyway, so these folks that are calling in and that she's trying to organize and get her out and into the courtroom, they're at their lowest point. And the lowest of lows is not that you have a CHINS case. You probably need the services. You need the help, okay? Some of them end on happy notes. Okay, we got you straightened out. You're no longer using methamphetamine. You're no longer using marijuana. You're no longer in a relationship where you're being battered. Kids get to go home, okay? But sometimes those cases end up in termination of parental rights. And so you can imagine how upset folks are and dealing with them and customer interaction. I mean, you're dealing with people that are having a hard time. And they do it with professionalism and with the utmost dignity for the litigants. Just the same as what we would all want to be treated if that were a case for us. I mean, it can happen to anybody. Criminal cases can, and so can CHINS. It could happen to any of us, you know, like, I mean, I don't think so. And the likelihood is probably slimmer than with others. But anyone living a risky lifestyle, it happens. So Carrie does a lot of the same things Dan does, only with the CHINS docket, because we have mental health issues there, we have pauper counsel issues there, we have appeals issues there as well. And so my point on that is that she is able to make recommendations to my administrator, Sandy Brown, on budget issues affecting that department. Those are just 3 off the top of my head that could be affected in my budget that she can make recommendations on. I consider Carrie to be my chief deputy in my CHINS department. She manages the workflow of that department. She has chosen to make it her profession. I mean, if I had to adjudicate the cases and get everybody in the courtroom, make sure everybody's there, write all the orders. DCS writes a lot of the orders. Carrie checks them out, makes sure they're good. I look at them, make sure they're good, and then we issue them. So she plays that role, and that's hugely important. When you have kids outside of homes, or in Nan's case, folks you're sending to prison or home detention, one word can mess you up, can hurt that person. Don't put home detention there, put jail. and you're not at your house serving time, you're over with Dan. So things have to be done right by both of these ladies, and I really respect them. And I didn't have down that analogy, but if you guys are aware of that poem, I guess, I really feel like that. They lift me up. They do, you know? And it's kind of a lonely job being judge. Anyway, but they're folks that I can actually talk to about that because they're part of my staff. They know what's going on. It's kind of comforting. Not that that's a reason to raise them up from NE4, NE5 to NE6. It's just, like I said, in conclusion then, when I became judge in 2012, I had no clue that I would have inherited such an experienced, loyal, and competent staff. Without these managers, I could not perform nearly as efficiently as I do. I think with substantial increase in caseload, their experience, loyalty, and professionalism, it merits a reclassification from NE6 to Dan and Carrie. Anyway, I can answer questions if you guys have any. I hope that I didn't speak too quickly or try to bulldoze you guys. I'm not trying to do that, but I do feel very strongly. I think it's the right thing to do. My wife, as you guys know, is a dentist, and we get raises every year. I know you guys do too, but it just feels good to do the right thing and to get things where it's supposed to be, where it should be, honestly. What I think, but that doesn't matter what I think. It matters what you guys think. So if you guys have questions of me, I
Well,
can
one
try
of the
to
things
answer
that
them.
we look at is the change in a job description.
Uh-huh.
That's one of the things that the commissioners can approve, but then council will ultimately have to fund that.
Oh,
And they look at a change in the job description. Shannon, have you been talking to Shannon at all about,
we talked
this
about an
particular-
employee handbook, Mark, she, I, and Judge Conrad.
but you haven't talked about these, a job description on these two individuals, right?
No.
Okay,
No.
okay.
No. But I hope that with what I've said today, I hope that I was hoping that the commissioners could see that I feel as though they fit into the NE6.
Well,
And maybe you guys don't think that, that's okay.
and part of what you're looking at is basically reorganizing your department. The bands were set up, to fill the positions within your department.
Mhm.
So, if you're looking at, if you feel like the court reporter and chief reporter should be filled by somebody in the NE6 band,
Mhm.
then that's what we have to justify. Like say if you were to ever have to replace either of these people,
Mhm.
if your department alignment was appropriate for two more NE6 employees, then that would carry through, to mirror what these two employees are currently doing. So that's part of the way we do it is if we feel like, number one, if the job description is not appropriate for what they're doing and for what that position is, and that's something we do. And if that changes or that's not appropriate, then the wage review committee looks at reorganizing your employees in your department. And if it's appropriate to move them to an NE6, then that's where it goes to a recommendation to council to fund that change. So,
You're writing the job description for the job itself, not for the individual.
yeah. So there is no doubt that you have two exemplary employees here. There's no doubt about that.
Yeah.
And, I think you've shown that and you've definitely made the case for them. But kind of the way we've done it in the past as far as moving through the thing is looking at job descriptions, making a recommendation to the wage review committee, and then the wage review committee would say, yes, they need to be NE6s because of the responsibilities they have. And then that goes to council and council says, yeah, that department, those employees need to be NE6s.
Okay.
And so, from what they're currently doing, their responsibilities, I think, like if you look at the description of the NE6 under education experience, will likely have at least a bachelor's degree. you know, I would even look at it, at adding
Yes.
or equivalent experience.
Yeah, because if you're gonna put education experience, it ought to talk about experience.
You need to talk about the experience, and obviously, these two employees have
Their experience far outseeds any
mucho experience,
education that someone could
Yeah.
come in and have,
so,
honestly.
but, you know, you've definitely made the case for these employees and the dedication and the work they're doing for sure. So as we look at that position, at this point, that's kind of how we've done it in the past. We justify that, yes, these positions need to be in NE6, and then the funding part of it goes to council, and council says, yes, we agree, we're gonna fund those positions for your department as NE6s. And then the change in salary happens, so.
Okay,
Or if they say no, you then can file a wage appeal and go before the wage
Well,
appeals
and
committee, right?
this would be your wage appeal. I mean,
okay.
so,
I would recommend talking to Shannon about,
All I wanna know is
Process.
who I talk to next.
You need to talk to Shannon, and you actually need a new job description written if it would fit the parameters of an NE6.
Okay,
And then you come back to us and we would approve the job description.
Shannon, I
Because it's
recently
that.
did it for some of my staff because we lost,
yeah, I
An
saw that,
employee in
that's
the
what
office.
who I was referring to.
and
Mhm, yeah.
what I did is I worked with Shannon to get job description changes for the new added duties they would be doing.
Mhm.
Mark looked at it, approved it, or didn't approve it, but he doesn't vote. Brought it to the commissioners. The
well written.
commissioners then approved
For the job
the
description.
job descriptions. I then went to wage appeals, which Stan sits on. They then make a recommendation to the council. And then the council hashes it out and decides whether or not to do it.
Right.
Okay, I might have missed something in my thoughts.
keeping in mind though, that these wage bands are more geared towards the position. So let's say if you had to replace Nan or had to replace
Right.
Carrie, what am I gonna replace them with?
I hope
Because
somebody like them,
it doesn't sound like they're replaceable with,
they're not.
but
unfortunately.
I mean, if
I'm
something happened to where you had to replace that position, we could justify saying, yes, that position needs to be an NE6.
It'd be nice if they were that qualified.
Yeah.
If I could find somebody,
So,
just like
but
everybody else. Hard to
Shannon, are you okay with that if he starts to work with you on job descriptions and then come back to us with job descriptions and then we could recommend saying, yes, with these changes, you know, we'd like to see you go to the wage appeal committee.
So we'll go Shannon, then
We would have,
you guys, then wage appeal if everything goes. Okay,
then it goes to
Okay.
council says, yes,
then, okay, so it's, okay, Shannon,
so,
you,
Or no.
Yeah.
Yeah,
She'll
no,
review, she'll
sure.
review the existing job descriptions and then you'll look at the changes that need to be
Okay.
made in that job description.
okay, all right.
so.
If it fits,
It's sorry to make you jump through so many hoops.
No, I just,
But
I
that's
just.
consistent
glad that I
with
know the
everything
process.
else.
That's
Yeah,
what
that-
I mean.
Yeah,
Like, I
that's
don't care.
consistent with the way we've done it.
I want to put everybody in a position where they can make an informed decision. Like, that's all I care about. And I want to get my foot in the door now or this
Yeah.
year because I think it's important, like,
So,
to these ladies, and I would like to retain them, of course. And I don't think that they would quit, but boy, if they did, it would be messy.
well, right now, an NE4 makes $15.51 an hour.
Mhm.
So, you know, that doesn't sound like it's a qualifying wage
For what they
for
do.
what.
And
Carrie
their
does,
merits,
yeah.
yeah, it's not probably
So,
adequate. But hey, you know, I'm glad that you guys said that. Don't, I mean, that's great.
Yeah.
That's what you're supposed to do, is tell me no if like I haven't done something the way you guys want. So I know it's hard to
Part
tell
of the
a big guy
reason-
judge that.
part of the reason that council went to the wage band
Not that hard.
system was for consistency.
Yep, I remember.
And so, you know, in order to be consistent with the precedent we've set, you know, that's kind of the direction we go.
And like I say, if I didn't feel so strongly, like if they were mediocre employees or something, I wouldn't probably come over. I don't come asking, you know, I try to
Yeah.
stay out because I just, you know, we're supposed to be pretty detached as judges anyway. And, you know,
but you still need to fight for the employees if you feel it's
Yeah.
justified.
But that's
and maybe I
kind of,
haven't done it soon enough, you know, and that's part of that. They were lifting me up. before I
But
do
that's
it.
kind of the motivation to this system is
Okay.
more geared towards the position.
Yep, I get that, yep.
That person and their responsibilities in that position. And if we have to replace them, what responsibilities do we look for to fill them? So that's kind of why.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah,
So-
thanks to.
Because it
all
used to
three
be,
of you.
before we had this, it was very subjective to where people would come to council and say,
Do
oh,
I-
I've got a great employee. Oh, good, let's give them a big raise, you know, and it was very subjective.
Yeah, sure.
So
Yeah, I
anyways,
think, that the only way to get them to right amount is to reslot them in a way,
Yeah.
and I think that it's justified. If I didn't think they
Yeah.
could meet, if I couldn't make an argument for any sick, I wouldn't waste it.
Yeah, sure.
You know,
Well, hopefully you got some guidance.
oh, yeah, thank you guys so much for everything, I
Yeah.
appreciate everything you do for us, and,
Yeah, but with that job description, you know,
yeah,
if that's written to the appropriate duties for what you need to have as a judge to run your court, then that would certainly be.
And Shannon knows what to do because she's done it before.
Shannon loves the
Get
work.
with
She's
Shannon.
got some experience for you, Judge.
Yeah,
No pressure, Shannon.
anyway,
Well, then it all depends on council's vote anyway in the
It
end.
does, it does.
Yeah, so,
Well,
so
at least we gotta go through the right channels.
let me write this down, so Shannon,
Shannon, job description,
yeah,
then back to us. Then the wage review committee, which currently the wage review committee is made up of Yvette,
and Corey,
Corey.
and who's the commissioner?
myself.
I thought it was you. Okay, cool. Okay, good, yep. Wage review. Then back to council to make sure, which I think that's good, like, it shouldn't just be, no offense, wage
Yeah.
review.
But just
It
to
should be the whole
get,
body,
it gives us standardization is what it gives us, and that's what we need.
yeah, for sure, I'm sure Shannon appreciates
Well, and that's,
consistency.
that step is interesting, is, you know, in one of Tony's employees, the council voted differently than what the recommendation from the wage review
Yeah,
committee was. So it's not always set in
No,
stone.
right, no, otherwise, why would you?
Right, right.
Yeah.
I think it's good,
Yeah.
yep. By the time we get through with it, it'll be legitimate, you know, like, everybody's looked at it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
everybody's looked at it and it's like, yes, this is very appropriate. So,
Yep, I respect that, for sure.
Yeah.
Well,
Well,
thank you guys for
Thank you for your,
listening to my long-winded and heartfelt explanation. So, anyway, thanks, Tony, for your guidance too. Mark?
Hey, thanks.
Yep.
thanks a lot, Judge.
And I'll have Sandy, you know, track that. Hooked up, so.
All right.
I know you're-
yeah.
A little bit. Okay, on to other business.
We'll get you where you need to go, so.
Yeah.
All right.
Thanks,
Judge.
That's what he's.
All right.
You guys can keep that. It's a lot less than this 150 pager that Mark was talking about.
Yeah.
It doesn't get good till 140 though.
No, it doesn't.
Anyway, thanks, guys.
I thought he
Okay,
only read
thanks a lot,
stuff,
Judge. Appreciate it.
Okay, yep. I
Very
appreciate it
good.
too. Yep, thank you.
I thought he only read stuff written by John Grisham, so.
Hey, I like John Grissom. He's one of my favorite authors.
That's right. Thank you.
Yeah, we'll see you. Ed, you want to come up and give us, the Board of Finance?
Yes, real quick, right
Results?
before this meeting of your commissioners, we had an Adams County Board of Finance Committee meeting where we went through at length the proposals that we had from all 5 banks we opened last week. And the Board of Finance Committee is you 3 commissioners and me as secretary of that board, that's by state statute. We went through everything in detail. We had some banks here, personal representatives from the banks. They spoke, and I gave you my recommendation that you accepted. And we have continued our relationship with the Bank of Bern for a new 2-year contract that starts October 1st. And everything went well. So, thank you, gentlemen.
And that's not to say that that's the only bank we'll be dealing with. We will
No, we keep money in all 5 Adams County banks. All 5 Adams County banks collect taxes for us. I appreciate that. We're gonna continue our relationship with all of them. And, but with this whole proposal, there's gonna be 1 person wins and 4 banks that don't. So the one that won is the Bank of Berkeley.
Appreciate your help,
Thank you.
all your work you did on it.
Thank you.
Is that a motion or anything or not?
No,
Oh.
but, yeah, I gotta take a break for a couple minutes. Mark, you got something for us then?
No, I think we're done. I've covered it already with Aaron here, so.
Okay, well, anything from the public then? This far, nothing? I'll take a motion if we don't have anything.
I'll make a motion. Second.
Motion that we are adjourned.